Hello, this is Erich Hunter, and today I wanted to talk briefly about where does the energy come from in energy healing. Now, several years ago, Larry Dossey wrote a paper about this very topic. It was, but is it energy? Reflections on consciousness, healing, and the new paradigm. And in this paper, basically, he discussed that there is very little scientific evidence that energy healing actually uses any recognizable form of energy that scientists recognize. And he said that this was problematic for groups of practitioners. For example, like I think it was T-touch practitioners or healing touch practitioners who wanted to use this for nursing programs because the programs teaching these classes were attacked by mainstream scientists in institutions where they were teaching it because they were calling it energy healing even though there was no way to demonstrate that it was any form of scientific energy. So the question is, well, what is the energy in energy healing? Why do they call it energy healing? Is there any justification for that? Well, I'm going to present a hypothesis that I believe that all forms of energy healing are basically low-level light therapy, basically that it's electromagnetic energy that healers are working with. And there are several lines of evidence that support this hypothesis. All right, so what is this evidence that energy healing is basically a form of low-level light therapy? It's the use of electromagnetic energy, light, to produce healing effects in the human body. Well, the primary source of evidence for this hypothesis are studies that have been published in the mainstream medical literature that show that the human hands of a healthy individual produce the entire spectrum of visible light from the palms of the hands. So everything we think of as being the colors of the rainbow comes out of our hands, but it's at a very low level. The light is at a very low level, so it is not detectable by the human eye, but it can be detected by specialized instruments when the human body is studied in rooms that are sealed where no light can get in. Now, in addition to the visible spectrum of light, that portion of the electromagnetic spectrum which is visible, the human body also produces infrared radiation from the hands and some ultraviolet. And I put down just one reference that I found there from the Journal of Korean Physical Society, but there were other medical journals as well that had peer-reviewed published articles that demonstrate that the human hands produce light. Now, this is interesting because almost every energy healing modality that I'm aware of uses the hands as the source of the energy for the healing. So like Reiki, pranic healing, you name it, any sort of mainstream energy healing thing, you see the hands being used. In religious healing, the laying of hands, and all those ancient paintings like Buddhist paintings and Hindu paintings, there's like the hand with the wheel in it. So the hand is prominent in all forms of alternative healing, so-called energy healing. So if the human hands are making light, maybe that is the source of the energy for this energy healing techniques that are out there. So maybe that is the source of energy to answer Larry's question. Well, what's another form of evidence? Well, also supporting this idea is that the mainstream medical literature documents extensively that doctors have been able to successfully use low-level light therapy to help heal different conditions, different medical conditions that humans are suffering from and trying to heal. So just for an example, like infrared light has been shown if it's used at very low levels, not strong, blasting infrared like in a sauna or something like that, but they have special devices that they make for medical purposes that produce a very low level of infrared, that this can promote wound healing, tissue repair, reduce inflammation, relief of pain, relief of swelling. I have a whole list of things that are there. Other types of light can be used to treat like seasonal defective disorders. Other types of light can be used to heal the skin. It goes on and on. Now, like the hands produce a lot of infrared energy. And so like if you Google on the internet and if you go to Google Scholar and look on medical journals and Google infrared healing, you will find many, many articles about the beneficial effects of infrared light for healing. So if healers use their hands, if energy healers use their hands, and our hands are producing electromagnetic energy, and electromagnetic energy has been shown to have healing effects on the body, especially when it's given in a low dose. That's the key thing here. Low levels of light seem to have a much better effect on stimulating and repairing tissues than higher levels of light. So like, going out into full sun is very intense. That's a very intense form of exposure to electromagnetic energy. But having a very small amount, almost like a homeopathic dose, where the weaker it is, the more powerful and potent it is, that would make sense in terms of this idea that energy healing, where does the energy come from? It's coming from the light that's coming out of our hands. Now, this light that's being created by our hands is believed to be produced by biophotons. And medical doctors have demonstrated that this is a true phenomenon. Electrons in our cells, as they change from one energy state to another, release energy, and the energy is in the form of light. It's in a photon. So if you are healthy, now if you're sick, your hands will not produce the full spectrum of light. But it's been documented if you're a healthy individual and you're basically robust, your hands are going to be generating low levels of light the whole time, and the light is going to go from infrared to ultraviolet with the entire rainbow spectrum in between. Okay, now some other evidence that light, literally light, and electromagnetic energy, because obviously infrared and ultraviolet are invisible, so light in the broadest sense, or electromagnetic energy, what other evidence is there that this is the source of the energy for energy healing? Well, an interesting phenomenon is that when doctors expose people to these low-level lights, like they have a special machine that makes the energy, let's say blue light, for example, or infrared electromagnetic energy, they found that there's a dramatic difference in the way that individuals respond. So some individuals will have like almost a miracle healing. Other individuals will have it'll have a minor effect, and some individuals it seems to have no effect at all. So there's a lot of individual variation, but overall the trend that they record is that people benefit from it. So statistically they can show that there's a benefit, oftentimes a strong benefit, but that there'll be much individual variation when you look at it on a case-by-case basis. And the same can be said of energy healing. So can energy healers heal everybody? No. But when energy healers are doing their work, it's very surprising. You'll see some people who will just completely have a turnaround, have what we call a miracle healing or a spontaneous remission. Most people show some degree of benefit, more or less. And then a few people won't really respond to it at all. So this correlates almost precisely what is known about low-level light therapy as described from the medical literature. All right, so my hypothesis here to answer Larry Dossey's question is that electromagnetic energy from the hands is probably the underlying mechanism of all energy healing methods. It doesn't matter what you call the method, what spiritual systems or psychological systems you associate with that method, they all boil down to the same thing, that you're using electromagnetic energy from your hands to influence a biological system, namely like a human body that requires healing. And this is regardless of how it's explained or visualized by practitioners. This is the most parsimonious hypothesis. It's in alignment with what they call Occam's razor, where the simplest explanation has the most power. It's completely in alignment with what medical doctors say about low-level light therapy. Been documented our hands produce low levels of light. You use your hands for almost all energy healing modalities, so this makes a lot of sense. Well, then the question becomes, well, what about distance healing? Because although the literature is not as rock solid, with distance healing, like is it a real phenomenon or is it not? Statistically, there have been some questions. Now, just as a side note, I do question the methodology of a lot of the papers. They try so difficult to make the study double blind or triple blind that they actually are making it impossible for the energy distance healers to function in a way that would allow the distance healing to work. Some evidence, some studies, like if you read William Browd's book or some other studies have demonstrated a positive effect of distance healing. Other studies have believed that it does not actually occur. But I would say if you're listening to this, you probably, based on your experience, have found that distance healing does work more often than not, and that it works in situations that cannot be explained merely by a placebo effect. For example, if you do a distance healing on an animal, and the animal has no idea that you're doing a distance healing on it, how does it get better? Or if you do it on a child and you haven't told the child, or if you do it on a person who doesn't even know you're doing it for them, like they're in the hospital, you haven't told anyone you're doing it, you do the distance healing, and then all of a sudden they have a spontaneous, rapid change in their health or a miraculous turnaround, it becomes more difficult to just write this phenomenon off and say that it's not real. Okay, so let's just assume that distance healing is a true phenomenon. What about distance healing? If we're dealing with light from our hands, how could distance healing happen? Because, doesn't light have to physically go from one object to another? And the answer is no. There's a phenomenon in quantum physics. Albert Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. And scientists know that photons or light particles can transmit information. And they do not have to be in contact with each other. So you can have light particles that are different parts of the world, like one could be in China, one could be, in England. And, if these light particles become entangled, meaning that they have a link between them, it's not a physical link, but it's like an energetic link between them, they can share information. And this is the foundation of a whole system called quantum computing that they're creating right now. They're trying to be able, so you don't need a wire to send information over the internet. You can put information into a photon and automatically transfer it to another photon, which is not physically connected to it. So while there is much to be learned about this, and there would be a lot of explanation needed to explain, well, how does distance healing actually work? There is a general model out there that light can transmit information, and the information can be transmitted without the source and the receiver of the information actually being in physical contact, because of this phenomenon of entanglement or spooky action at a distance. And just to give you some other examples of how light can carry information, like they now have internet signals, which can be carried completely by light. So all the data that's being sent would normally be sent through a wire or through a fiber optic cable, can now be sent through light and transmitted directly to a computer from a light bulb. Like I said, they're trying to use this quantum entanglement to send information from one country to another without having any wires or anything, or any direct signal between these, just having these entangled photons. So while the science of that is very complex and is not at the level where it could explain distance healing yet, it just provides a template, sort of well, hey, it might be possible sort of explanation. And so you can't just write it off. So in summary, I hope you found this to be very interesting. Obviously, scientists have not thought about this topic at all, and neither have most energy healers. But it's a very interesting idea to play with. So to go back, Dr. Dossi, I hope you listened to this video. I would love to get your feedback on it. Maybe it's just light coming out of our hands, and we are truly light workers doing our healing work. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. And I sincerely hope that you benefited greatly from it. And I will see you next time. Bye.